There was an uncomfortable silence within the crowded Flagstaff church. Not a silence of respect, but one much more oppressive. The atmosphere was heavy, like that which hangs over a shattered family that must endure each other after loss. In the center of the room, a photograph of Garrison Brown in a framed format stood, candles lit around it. His stern war smile appeared set in stone, a reminder of a young man who had loved with passion, fought with courage, and endured more than most could ever imagine. Janelle sat still in the front row, her quivering hands touching against a tissue. Next to her were Logan, Hunter, and the rest, dressed in suit ties that could not conceal the loss etched on their faces. Savannah was clutching her mother's arm tightly, her expression impassive, keeping her sorrow where nobody could touch it. This was a mourning family, but not a cohesive one. Cody Brown sat mere feet away, his tie askew, his face empty. He gazed at his children, looking for connection, some small acknowledgement that they felt this sorrow. But none of them looked up. Logan and Hunter ignored his stare altogether. He sat in quiet, surrounded by the remnants of relationships long lost. Beside him, Robin blotted at her eyes with a tissue. Her mourning looked flawless, nigh polished. Her makeup was flawless, her face was poised. But to Janelle's kids, she presented nothing. No warmth, no recognition, just an absent theatrical grief. Outside the church, a throng had assembled. There were some friends, some fans. Some had grown up watching Garrison on TV. Word of his death had circulated fast, and now people from everywhere came to bid him farewell. The sorrow was felt not just by those who knew him, but by millions who had watched him grow up in front of a television. But rumours were becoming louder. Where was Mary? Folks whispered. She had been seen and heard missing. Rumours were rampant. Social media was already questioning. Why wasn't she there? Didn't she care? Family drama? Anger? Distance? Not many took the time to consider the reality of her silence. Many miles away from the church, Mary sat in the peaceful parlour of her inn. She wore black. She had lit a candle. On her desk in front of her was a card, scribbled in her own handwriting, to Janelle. She clutched it between shaking fingers, pressing her thumb into the paper as if she could leave some part of herself there. She wished she could have been there. But the idea of going into a room full of people who had discarded her, of encountering a husband who had abandoned her emotionally years before their marriage broke up, was too much to stand. Nevertheless, she mourned. She spoke privately to Janelle. She sent love, flowers, and letters to the children, but she would not be used as a symbol for a public show of solidarity that did not represent her own life. Back at the church, once the ceremony was over, Garrison's siblings came together one more time, without the cameras, without the crowd. Just a few lawn chairs in a peaceful park, some battery lanterns, and arms that wrapped around each other tightly as they wept. Gabriel lit one of the lanterns and gave it to Hunter. He spoke softly, saying what everyone was saying: Garrison was worth better. Madison came late but held something special. She was burdened with memories. She picked up an old notebook Garrison had shared with her at one time and read from its pages. His words hung in the air, his thoughts, his jokes, his heart. It was a reminder that even through the din, the cameras, the sorrow, he was still there, in spirit, in memory, in love. The journal Madison read contained more than just stories. It held raw pain, dark humour, and glimpses of poetry that revealed Garrison's innermost world. One line silenced everyone. "I feel like I'm yelling while submerged, and it goes unheard." Not Robin, not even God at times. For an instant, the park itself held its breath. Even the wind stopped. All those who sat in that ring realized the truth. They hadn't realized the depths of Garrison's pain. And worse still, not enough had been done to prevent it. That night, Gwen went live on social media. The internet was already abuzz. Why hadn't Mary attended the funeral? Accusations and theories overflowed every comment section. Some questioned whether TLC had prohibited her. Others speculated that she'd simply been written out again. But Gwen wasn't going to let the story get away. Sitting up straight, her tone stronger than normal, she spoke directly into the camera. "Let me just get this straight right now," she said, her forehead furrowed in anger. Mary didn't go because she knew she would make it into a media circus. The attention would have been diverted to her when it should have been on Garrison. He didn't deserve that. Her voice broke slightly, but she didn't relent. She mourned her way, and honestly, she's been through enough. Audiences inundated the comment section with responses, but in a softly spoken but biting aside from her own private discussion, Janelle Brown wasn't holding anything back. "That's revisionist history," she complained, shaking her head at Cody Brown's assertion that he had ever wished to love each of his wives the way that he loved Robin. She explained with measured composure. "He never told me anything like that, ever. It would have been nice to know that was the intention when we were actually creating a life." This wasn't a random remark. It was the crux of an underlying problem. Cody never really tried to strengthen his relationship with his other wives before Robin came along. And now, in 2025, Cody Brown appears to have abandoned polygamy completely. Since his 2022 breakup with Christine, his third wife, Cody owned up in an April episode of Sister Wives that he didn't have the emotional bandwidth anymore. To Robin, he owned up, "It's hard not to feel bitter. I bought into it, I really did. But in the end, I felt awful. I don't want to pursue another woman. I can't take the heartache, the questions, the constant struggle to maintain trust." It was a surprising concession from a man who used to base his life around plural marriage. Meanwhile, Mary Brown, historically caricatured as the bench-wedded wife, spoke out with biting candor. She publicly refuted Cody's implication that he wanted to bring all the wives up to the divine affection he feels with Robin. "He wants us all to be like Robin?" she asked incredulously. "I'm sorry, I'm Mary. I'm never going to be her. I'm not going to be her." This wasn't merely defensiveness. It was Mary claiming her own identity after years of being eclipsed. "I'm my own person," she added emphatically, "and I'm proud of that. It's deeply unfair for him to compare us that way." Her voice was firm, not bitter, but concise. She was not upset that he loved Robin. She was devastated that for so long she had been asked to become someone else in order to be loved back. Looking back, Mary thinks that Cody's inability to accept her as she is was responsible for the breakdown of their long-term marriage. "He stopped seeing me, really seeing me, 12, maybe even 14 years ago. And she wasn't the only one who realized it." Janelle also dismissed Cody's rewrite of their history. "He never attempted to kindle those relationships," she said. "Not with me, not prior to Robin. All this information about wanting to love us both the same way, that's just not what occurred." As Cody steps away from plural marriage, the fissures that long had been seething beneath the surface are now fully exposed. The picture of a happy, harmonious family, once carefully groomed for photographs, has been shattered by the burden of unspoken anguish and decades of abandonment. And what's left is a man who finally acknowledges he no longer desires the existence he long ago convinced others to adopt. Let me know if you'd prefer a final, complete master script incorporating all the elements, or if you want a video voiceover draft with timing markers or segment breaks. Cody Brown once dreamed of creating a combined, sprawling family on a 14-acre tract in Flagstaff. But that vision, as much of his plural marriage, started to fall apart at the seams. Even though the property was paid in full, an alleged $820,000 family investment, Cody had confessed on a recent episode that the dream might be dead for good. Seated next to Robin, he admitted, "I'd almost rather just scrap it or sell it and just start over somewhere else." Robin, clearly shaken, would not hear of it. "I can't even discuss this," she said. "That's so not where I'm at." But others were already elsewhere. Janelle Brown, who was the reliable second wife at one time, was adamant about what had led her to finally leave him: his inability to be a father. She had attempted to keep the marriage afloat, not for herself, but for her kids: Logan, Madison, Hunter, Garrison, Gabriel, and Savannah. But things really fell apart when his relationship with them disintegrated, and there were no indications he was in a rush to make it right. "The big spark for me," Janelle said bluntly, "was when his relationship broke down with my kids, and he didn't seem like he would move heaven and earth to fix it. That," she said, "was the final straw." Even when Cody subsequently brought up the proposal of reconciliation, Janelle didn't budge. "How could I possibly return to a man who doesn't fight for his relationship with our kids?" she demanded. "I'm always going to choose my children." Meanwhile, in a low-key but resounding moment, Mary Brown exposed further about how Cody had kept her on the string for years. After their 1990 oaths, she had optimism. Cody even said to her at the time of the family's 2018 relocation to Flagstaff, "This will be a good time for a new beginning for us." But that pledge, as did many others, never came to fruition. In the season premiere of 2025, Mary revealed her reality. "He made me think things were going to change, but this has been the pattern for years. He never expressed how he truly felt or didn't feel." Cody, on his own part, confessed to having sent mixed messages. But in saying that, he went on to say he would never court or date her again. Mary ultimately walked away early in 2023. Her friends were relieved. "It's about damn time," they said to her. And Mary, with piercing clarity, encapsulated it. "If he can push me out and I leave, then he's not the bad guy because he didn't walk away." This was not a breakup. It was the dismantling of a carefully constructed tale. Family patriarch Cody Brown, once the glue that held everyone together, now found himself alone. Estranged from a majority of his children, rejected by 3 wives, and no longer enthralled with the plural marriage he used to advocate for. "I don't belong in the family anymore," he told us on the September 15th episode. A soft, resentful statement from a man who staked his existence on togetherness, only to now be standing on the outside of the very house he built. As season 19 of Sister Wives continues to play out, the veil has been lifted on more than simply a plural family on the brink of collapse. What we see happening is the downfall of an entire dynasty. Cody Brown, once the epitome of a successful polygamous family, now stands estranged from the majority of his children, isolated from his former wives, and even at odds in his final remaining union. With Robin, the alleged favourite, the relationship is no longer a haven. It is tense, insecure, and weighed down by the emotional aftermath of the breakdown of the family. Robin confessed in a candid moment, "We're doing the worst we've ever done in our marriage." Now monogamous after 14 years, the emotional burden has not lightened. If anything, it has increased. She admits, "I'm always on my toes, making sure he's not sabotaging our relationship." Cody, grappling with guilt and anger, doesn't spare words. "I can't even look myself in the mirror and say, 'Hey dude, I love you.'" His ties with his older kids are shattered beyond repair. Madison, Janelle's eldest daughter, has gone totally no contact, not allowing Cody anywhere near her kids unless he can demonstrate he can show up, reliably and without theatrics. As Janelle explained, until he can be consistent and not be dramatic, she feels it's probably better if they don't know about him. Cody's rationale: "Every time I talk to her, it feels like she's fishing for gossip." As if that excused his absence. Mary, the initial wife who once hoped for an enduring love, now looks back on 32 years of being selected by a man who, in his own words, never loved her. "Why would a young man marry a woman if he didn't love her?" she asks. "How cruel is that, to choose me only to make himself love me for 3 decades? Cody's reply. "She can say anything she wishes." And still he confesses, "We never liked our honeymoon. I should have escaped that marriage 25 years ago." But he didn't, not out of love, but out of faith.